Good evening. Meet this nondescript pair of teenagers. These teenagers came here to visit one resident and one resident only here at the Richmond Hollywood Cemetery. They're here to test the legend of the Richmond Vampire. The time is now, on any given day, on any given week. These kids came to play with W.W. Poole. Little do they know they're playing with something much more sinister. To investigate, I talked to two different forces, an outsider and a historian. The outsider is Joshua Griesenbach, a high school teacher and Richmond local. The historian is Catherine Whittington. She did not wish to be pictured in this film, therefore all of her accounts have been reenacted by an actress. And so with that in mind, let's begin.
The thing about Mr. Poole is, I don't know how it got started, I don't know why it got started, but that's the only one I've heard.
My version that I had heard was that, so you had a train accident that really did happen, and I guess like around the turn of the century, like early 1900s, I would think. And so after the train accident, you had different like paramedics go up to the accident site, and they were like helping people and stuff. And while that was happening, people noticed that there was someone who was going around and like hunched over injured people, but it wasn't a paramedic. It was this guy who looked like a vampire, and he was like feeding on the people and stuff. And so the guy looked really scary, and he had blood all over him, and his teeth, you know, the stereotypical like vampire teeth. And so the people freaked out, and then there's a really dramatic chase that ensued, and so like the angry mob like following him, and they chase him into Hollywood Cemetery, and then he disappears into the tomb.
One incident was back in the late 70s when 80 monuments were destroyed. So I came out here in 2011 and the same thing had been done. I hate to blame the students, but there was some group that opened up the mausoleums and dragged out the caskets. What type of gain is there? There's no gain in destroying monuments.
The guy who was actually buried there, they moved his remains. And so there's not actually anything in there anymore, because there were like occult groups and stuff who had like broken in and were trying to like do weird stuff with the remains, I guess thinking that that was the vampire's remains.
Nowadays, kids will come in and whisper something into the pipe of W.W. Poole's mausoleum. The thought is, when you whisper this into the pipe, the vampire will come and haunt you.
So my understanding is that there was somebody who I believe was either like working in the tunnel or was on the train, I believe, but someone who was there in like an official capacity. And during the train crash, or I think it derailed or something, but so during the accident, he was like burned almost to death. And so also like in the process of the wreck, like his teeth were chipped out and stuff. So then after the wreck had happened, people saw this guy. His name was Benjamin Mosby, and like he had weird looking teeth, and he looked scary, and he was covered with blood, but it was his own blood. So people probably saw that, and it looked like, you know, scary vampire. And then I guess that saying like, I saw somebody who was in a horrific accident, and that guy actually died, I believe, the next day in the hospital from his injuries.
Yeah, no, I'm not going there. It's inappropriate for the whole of Hollywood Cemetery and disrespectful to the founders.
So, fact or fiction? There's only one way to find out. W.W. Poole, come out and play.